Today we will talk about a tragedy that shook not only Russia but the entire world in 2000. This story is not just a chronicle of a disaster, but also a tale of people, hope, and pain that cannot be forgotten. The film begins with a simple, almost everyday scene. A boy named Misha, the son of Captain Mikhail Avrin, is playing in the bathroom, holding his breath underwater. His father times him with a waterproof watch. Misha proudly runs to his mother, almost a minute. But she is not particularly impressed and sends him to bed. The next day, the loading of combat missiles begins. The crew is preparing for large-scale Northern Fleet exercises. It seems like normal military routine, but there is another side to it. Salaries are being delayed, and the sailors are literally surviving. The situation is exacerbated by the wedding of one of the sailors, Pavel. His colleagues chip in for the celebration as best they can, but there is still not enough money. To buy food and drinks for the party, Mikhail turns to the ship's quartermaster, but he refuses to lend him any money. Then the captain sacrifices his wristwatch, the very one with which the story began. In the evening, the wedding takes place, followed by a celebration in the assembly hall. In the morning, it's time for duty. The submariners on the pier are sleepy, a little tired, but disciplined. Pavel is in the torpedo compartment. He is watching a training torpedo that was recently loaded onto the boat. But the projectile triggers an alarm. The temperature inside the hull is rising. Despite this, the other systems are working steadily, and the submarine sets sail. Among those who saw them off, holding their breath, was little Misha. That same morning, thousands of kilometers away from the scene, British officer David Russell, Deputy Commander of the Royal Navy, began his day. His team is closely monitoring large-scale Russian exercises. 57 ships and 3 submarines, including the Kursk, are participating in the operation. Russell is personally acquainted with Grudzinski and therefore pays special attention to what is happening. Meanwhile, the Kursk takes up its position. The crew is preparing for a training torpedo launch. The commander is holding a briefing on board, and the systems are being checked. Pavel, one of the submariners, reports a dangerous temperature in the torpedo. It continues to heat up, but the command expects that the torpedo will be launched shortly and the problem will resolve itself. Mikhail hangs his most personal memento on the instrument panel, a photograph of his wife and son. Pavel's crew begins preparations for launch. But the temperature of the torpedo continues to rise. Pavel insists on an emergency dump, but receives orders to wait. There are only 7 minutes left before launch. Unfortunately, this does not help. The torpedo explodes right on board. The submarine dives sharply downward and hits the bottom with its bow. A fire breaks out, followed by a second, even more powerful explosion. The remaining ammunition explodes. The boat literally bursts from within, the bow is destroyed, and the compartments fill with water. The survivors manage to make their way to the stern, to the 9th compartment. The situation is critical. The reactor core is overheating. To stop the chain reaction, the cooling system must be activated manually. Otherwise, a nuclear disaster could occur. One of the sailors stays at his post to do this. He asks Mikhail to convey his last words to his wife, and then calmly and courageously fulfills his duty. In the 9th compartment, the survivors gather their strength. Mikhail organizes the work. They need to restore the systems, start the pumps, and pump out the water. The most important thing is to let them know that they are alive. Every hour, one of the sailors bangs a hammer on the hull so that the signal can be heard by ships on the surface. Meanwhile, David Russell receives information about strange seismic vibrations in the area of the exercises.
Search operation begin.
The clock is ticking. Rescuers use a remotely operated bathyscaphe to locate the Kursk on the seabed for the first time. The explosion has completely destroyed the bow of the submarine. The scene is worse than anyone could have imagined. On board, in the 9th compartment, the surviving sailors continue to fight for their lives. They heroically plug the hole with whatever they can find and turn on the pump. Meanwhile, on shore in Murmansk, Mikhail's wife, Tatyana, hears alarming rumors that something has happened to the Kursk. Neighbors and wives of other officers gather and head to headquarters to find out the truth. But the military is in no hurry to be forthcoming. Secrecy, military operation, no clarity. Meanwhile, Admiral Grudzinski orders all fleet engines to be stopped. Silence is needed so that acousticians can pick up the submarine signals.
Down below, frozen and suffocating, the sailor almost missed the signal.
But at the last moment, one of them starts banging. They can still be heard. This gives hope.
À Rescue Opération Begin.
Information about the survivors leaks out, and their wives gather the press. However, the authorities limit themselves to general statements, avoiding direct answers. At this time, British citizen David Russell offers his help. He tries to enlist the support of Norwegian divers, who have some of the best rescue equipment in the world. But secrecy reigns in Russia. Allowing foreign specialists on board a nuclear submarine is considered a threat to national security. Meanwhile, inside the Kursk, Mikhail learns that the necessary cartridges can be obtained from a flooded compartment. He and his comrade decide on a risky maneuver. They swim underwater in the icy darkness through an emergency passage. They manage to find the cartridges, but the return trip turns into a tragedy. Mikhail's partner suffocates. Mikhail pulls his body out, hoping it's not too late. With great difficulty, they manage to open the door to the 9th compartment. Water is pouring in. But the main thing is that the cartridges are saved. Meanwhile, a rescue vessel arrives at the scene of the tragedy. The bathyscaphe descends to the submarine and attempts to dock with the emergency hatch. But an old gasket prevents the hatch from closing tightly. In addition, the batteries are running low, and the bathyscaphe rises to the surface. On the surface, it becomes clear that the bathyscaphe's batteries are dead and there are no spares. Recharging will take 12 hours. A second attempt to dock is made at night, but again to no avail. The faulty airlock prevents the bathyscaphe from docking with the hatch. Admiral Grudzinski makes an unusual decision. He contacts British Commander David Russell and asks him to publicly offer assistance. Officially, foreigners are not allowed access, but public opinion can change the situation. Sure enough, the news spreads around the world. The divers' wives see it, including Tatiana. But instead of support, Admiral Petrenko makes a cold statement that Russian rescuers will manage on their own and that outside help is not needed. Meanwhile, Grudzinski finally agrees to help. Russell and the Norwegians head to the scene of the tragedy. But by the time they arrive, the admiral has been removed from command. The new command refuses to cooperate. In a conversation with the captain of the Norwegian ship, Russell bitterly remarks that no one wants living witnesses to a national disgrace. At this time, in the 9th compartment, the sailors are fighting with their last ounce of strength. The water is rising, and oxygen is running out. One of the submariners, in a panic, wants to open the hatch and surface on his own, despite the threat of death. Mikhail manages to stop him with difficulty. He realizes that there is almost no chance of survival and writes a farewell letter to his wife and son on the back of a photograph he always carried with him. When Russian rescuers try to hook onto the hatch for the third time, the sailors no longer respond. They have no strength or hope left. Only after reporting that no more knocking can be heard does the command allow the Norwegians to descend. But it is already too late. The submariners spend their last evening together. They eat the remains of their rations, drink hidden vodka, and sing the national anthem. Then another tragedy strikes. While trying to refill an oxygen tank, the charge falls into the water and explodes.
A fire breakout.
Those who are still alive realize that they will run out of air in a few minutes. In the morning, a Norwegian bathyscaphe descends to the Kursk. Divers open the hatch and discover the bodies of the dead. A solemn funeral is held for the heroes. Tatiana reads Mikhail's letter. His last words become the voice of all those who did not return from the depths. In the final scene, Admiral Petrenko walks along a row of children of the deceased sailors, shaking their hands. But when he reaches Misha, Mikhail's son, he is met with silence. The boy does not extend his hand. He just stands there with his head bowed. One by one, the children refuse to shake his hand. It is a silent protest against lies and indifference. When Tatiana and Misha leave, a car catches up with them. A ship's petty officer gets out of the car, the same one to whom Mikhail once gave his watch. He hands it to the boy and praises him for his actions in the church. Misha takes the watch, the last memory of his father. The film ends with the inscription, "As a result of the Kursk submarine disaster, 71 children were left without fathers." If you found this interesting, please support the channel by subscribing and liking. There are more true stories ahead that must not be forgotten.